go out there and take it.
Now, here are the Insiders.
The Insiders.
The Insiders.
The Insiders.
Insiders.
Rob Hipp and Andy Rickoff.
Feels like a great day for a show here on the Insiders. You know why? Because it's Friday, and most importantly, the sun is out. Who cares that it was 22 below this morning? The good news is the sun is out, there's no wind, and it just feels better this morning. It always does when the sun's out. Kyle Emanuel, you brought that up earlier. Good to have you back in. Thanks for being here all week. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a blast. And, typical Midwesterner. It's like I told you guys, it might be slightly colder today, but it feels better. Sun's out. No, there's not no wind, Rob. In Fargo, that doesn't exist. There is no such thing as no wind. I think I've seen zero. If it happens, it's rare, and it comes right back. But it's at 7 probably-ish, I'm guessing, which is a lot better than 30 that we've had the last couple days.
The wind chill was 35, 40. I mean, it was nuts. So maybe I can reword it this way. If it's 10 miles per hour or under,
it's a wind.
That means no wind. That means no wind.
Correct.
If it's 10 or under.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Take that all day.
Micah, you came in, brought the joy as always on a Friday. How are you feeling on this Friday?
Awesome, because NDSU men's basketball and women's basketball coming off 2 wins. One more game to go in the regular season. I'm pumped. It's a Friday. I love it.
And we have got a jam-packed show today. I was a little bit nervous because we had a lot of stuff lined up. And then we had, it's one of those days, too. And I said, I'm not going to let this get to me today because I had a lot of stuff lined up. And then I started getting text early this morning of hey, I can't make the show. Hey, I can't make the show. And so I'm sitting there thinking.
Not for me.
Not for you. You're always here. You're always. Kyle Emanuel's I'm going to be there. But I'm talking about, we get guests. We get things lined up during the week. And luckily, I've got a backup list. And so, all of a sudden, it filled back up. And so we have a jam-packed show now, which I'm excited about. Of course, we'll be talking Bison men and women's basketball, getting those dubs versus St. Thomas, women on the road at St. Thomas, taking care of the Tommies. A little bit of an NDSU baseball update. Tyler Oaks normally joining us now every Friday. He's not able to join us, the head baseball coach, due to their travel situation right now, of course, with weather and everything going on. So not able to join us today, but we'll still get a highlight about baseball. The reason I wanted to bring it up, too, MLB spring games get underway today. So it is things rocking and rolling now for baseball, and it's crazy to think that when you hear the word spring here, it doesn't feel like it, but it is in the air, and it's in the air whenever things are getting going in hardball again.
And that's why I struggle to stay connected with football, because I'm once the NFL season is over, I'm on to other stuff. March Madness, spring training is starting up. I'm connected to other things. I'm kind of in that routine. It's hard to break me out of that unless it's a really good product. So bringing that back to our yesterday's conversation with the XFL, USFL, it's hard to get me out of that rhythm where I'm okay, NFL, Super Bowl, it's done. Now I'm on to March Madness, spring training, baseball's going.
Just as I suspected, by the way, there are more people that want to be engaged with the USFL versus the XFL. I looked at the poll this morning, so a little bit more, but still, not a big fanfare for folks engaging with that. But we will have a poll of the day coming up, a little bit different. We're going to stay away from football today, so you want to make sure that you chime in on our second segment coming up here in just a few moments. Micah Bendy had a good one this morning. I will say a teaser that it involves automobiles. So it involves something to do with automobiles, but a very important poll question of the day. We're going to need your feedback on it. Kyle, we'll get your feedback coming up in the next segment. We'll also have BJ Stone on. He's the radio play-by-play man for Western Illinois. We'll preview that matchup coming up on Saturday here at the Schill Center tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Man, it's going to set up a doozy because you're talking about a Bison team who got the victory, so they sit right now in that third spot. Of course, Oral Roberts locked in at 1, South Dakota State locked in at 2. But then that third is, even though right now NDSU is still locked in, they're not locked in guaranteed, because what may happen on Saturday could dictate that, as Western Illinois, if they had the victory, that would set up a tiebreaker. Of course, they would have the tiebreaker. And then you got to think about St. Thomas as well and where they sit. So there's still a lot of movement that can happen in this final week of Summit League play.
Well, I thought about it, and I was looking at the tiebreakers because I was okay, what is the order of hierarchy with the tiebreakers in the Summit League? And NDSU is going to have the tiebreaker over St. Thomas, and after they beat them last night, they're okay. St. Thomas is not going to get the 3. But NDSU has to beat Western Illinois in order to get the 3, because both teams, NDSU and Western Illinois, went 1-1 against SDSU, went 0-2 against Oral Roberts. Obviously, they have not yet lost, and it keeps going down the list of the standings for their record, and then it's first it's actually head-to-head. So NDSU has to win this one versus Western Illinois, but then they'll have a better record anyways. So they win, they're 3. If they're not, they're 4.
So technically right now, yes, they are locked into 3, but that could change Saturday, so still some movement. Good news is we're going to have Greg Steeman come on from Midcoast Sports. He's going to break all that down for us, and we will talk Summit League and how things are wrapping up in the final regular season game heading in here for the landscape across the Summit. So we will have Greg coming on at 12:30. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. At noon, Grant Nelson getting that national attention. The spotlight has been on that young man. We'll have an interview. First-time guest will be joining us on the Epic Companies hotline, Benjamin Bornstein. He is a writer for Spurs Report down in Texas. But it's interesting to see some fanfare from the San Antonio Spurs and why a guy like Grant Nelson could be a fit down in San Antonio. It's historically a program that has taken guys that maybe haven't had a lot of fanfare, a.k.a. a Grant Nelson. Of course, here has a ton of fanfare, but it's a program that knows how to mold and develop guys and turn them into superstars, and we'll see if that could be the case down in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think obviously you look at Grant Nelson, you think he could fit a lot of places. A guy who's 6'10", 6'11", with his ball handling skills and all the things he can do on the court. Maybe there's some development that needs to happen there, but you'd think he could fit a lot of places. But yeah, the Spurs are interesting. I know that's your team, Rob, but like you said, there's certain teams probably that are more so like we want a guy that's just ready to play, and there's certain teams that are like, hey, we're willing to work with you for a couple of years and let's develop you and let's make you better. And that's kind of what we see a lot in the college game and sometimes in the pro. And I'm speaking more from the NFL standpoint from what I saw. It's just like, all right, you are what you are. If you work out, great. If not, we'll just go find someone else. And they don't really spend the time to develop someone. So it is kind of interesting the way that the Spurs have kind of taken that approach, and obviously to a lot of success. Maybe not so much recently, but obviously we all remember their great years.
Yeah, and we'll talk with Benjamin more about that and kind of how that development process can work. It's always fun just to kind of ponder and think, but keep in mind, Grant's still a young man. There's still some college ahead of him as well. And there was an article that came out from Seth Davis, a well-written article in The Athletic that we will also gander over as well and bring you up to speed on that and all the great things happening, not just around Grant, but with NDSU men's basketball as well. Also, another first-time guest here on the show, a good friend of mine, a mentor, and someone that I've really looked up to over the years. We'll have him on around 12:15. Mike Capps joining us. He's a veteran baseball broadcaster. He's going to get us up to speed more with the rules. He's been broadcasting minor league team down in Texas for a very long time, since their inception, the Round Rock Express, which were an affiliate of the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers back in the day. Mike also, though, has experience in the MLB calling games. And I thought, again, just because spring games getting underway today, it'll be fitting to have Mike on, talk about those rule changes a little bit more, get his perspective as someone who has been in the league for a very long time and understands that. Also has a book out there called The Grinders, so I'm going to give him an opportunity to talk a little bit about his book and just some of the baseball stories that he has to share. I think when you think of sports and stories, baseball has got to be the one at the top of the list whenever it comes to stories. You just find those really heart-touching, down-to-earth stories when you think of baseball. Yeah, and it's America's pastime, right? I mean, it's a very storied sport, and there's just so much. And obviously, they play so many dang games. It's there's always some good stories that go along there in the baseball world. You know, we had our movies earlier this week too, and I just thought of. I didn't mention any baseball movies. Field of Dreams should have been right there with Kevin Costner at the top of my list. Did you mention Field of Dreams? I mentioned it. Sandlot, yeah. See, I forgot all of these.
Sandlot was in mine. Moneyball was is another one. That's a good one.
Big League. What was it? Major League.
Major League was on
Charlie Sheen.
Major League. Yep.
On Micah's list.
Oh, that was so good.
You were too locked into your list. We had some baseball on there.
I didn't know. Yeah, shame on me. No swimming movies. Nothing about, I thought
swimming?
maybe some swimming movies there for you, Kyle Emanuel. I know you're a big swimming fan.
Well, I'm trying to think of a swimming movie.
I have no idea of any swimming movie.
There's probably a swimming movie on Michael Phelps, so there will be coming out in sometime
documentary.
in the future.
There's a movie, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's not really about swimming as much. It's like, I think it's Ashton Kutcher, and he's like a rescue diver. And you know what I'm talking about? It's a great movie. It's not really about swimming necessarily, but I think he was like a swimmer, and then he goes in, he's like this young hotch. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's a good movie. I'm sure there's someone out there listening that knows what I'm talking about. I think it's Ashton Kutcher. Rob's trying to look it up right now. But anyway, it's not really about swimming.
Yeah.
But it kind of is. That's the only movie I could think of.
The only thing that I could think of when it comes to that would be 50 First Dates, and I can't even believe that I'm mentioning that movie with Adam Sandler, and it's not even anything to do with swimming. He's just, he goes on the 51st dates. Every day is a new day for this young lady that he's trying to date. The reason I thought of that in water is because he's a zookeeper taking care of seals. That's the only thing I could think of that even comes remotely close to water.
It's called The Guardian.
Okay.
Came out in 2006. Ashton Kutcher, Kevin Costner, and he's a high school swim champion. See, so it is about swimming. I was correct. He's a high school swim champion with a troubled past and enrolls in the U.S. Coast Guard's A School, where legendary rescue swimmer Ben Randall, I'm assuming that's Kevin Costner, teaches him the ropes.
All right. Well, the next up, we'll have to find movies about badminton and what's that game where I can't even remember it, like croquet. You know, those. We'll have to find movies about that.
Okay.
Nobody will listen. They'll tune out. We're not going to do that. Don't worry. If you're listening to the Insiders, there will be none of that discussion. Just because we're on that train and it's kind of fun to think about. I was watching a movie yesterday late last night when I got in. Got in pretty late. I'm usually the last one out of the Shill Center. It just takes me a while. I like to just kind of relax. Usually after I call a game, even at the Fargo Dome after football, I'll just kind of sit in the booth for a minute, collect my thoughts, get a moment to breathe. Because, I mean, you know, Kyle, you're out there, of course, as an analyst on the TV side broadcasting games. There's a lot of information that you're digesting, and it does get mentally exhausting. It's fun to do.
Yeah,
don't mishear me. It's fun to do. Love what I do. But at the end of the game, sometimes it's good just to take a deep breath, kind of be by yourself in solitude, rethink about, okay, how did the broadcast go? What can I improve on? That's what I always think about after a broadcast. But I was there yesterday, got in late, finally got home about 10 o'clock. Baby was already asleep. And I turned on the TV, and there was a movie that I'm a big Will Ferrell fan. And I like Mark Wahlberg. I had no idea that they were in a movie together.
Get Hard?
The other guys.
The other guys from 2010.
Oh, I was thinking Kevin Hart.
I had no idea that
the
movie
other guys
even existed.
That's a great movie.
Phenomenal movie.
That's a great movie.
It is so underrated. It's so, like, I remember the first time I watched it, it was, like, out on TV, and I was like, I've never even heard of this movie. And, like, my buddies were telling me about it. It's hilarious. It's a phenomenal movie. If you like comedies, tune in. Yeah, absolutely.
What's it called? A desk pop?
Yeah, desk pop.
Desk pop.
It's a real thing, right?
Yeah. So you're talking about the one I just mentioned? With
yeah,
Carol?
the other guys, yeah.
I had no idea. Bridget, by the way, beautiful bride, joining us on the Horse Cam, Farming with Passion Horse. And you can find that Horse Cam online on the Bison 1660 Facebook page. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Bridget knew about The Guardian when y'all were talking about it. She knew. She texted in, said, "Happy Friday, sounding great. The Guardian, love that movie."
I told you, it's a good movie, and it's about swimming. Off the top of my head.
I know that Bridget's not a Will Ferrell fan, so I wouldn't, sweetheart, I know you're still listening, I would not have taken it that she would have been an Ashton Kutcher fan. Is that who was in it? You said Ashton Kutcher?
And Kevin Costner. Yep.
Well, Ashton Kutcher is a good actor, and he's a pretty good looking man too.
Whoa, easy there, Micah.
I mean, he is.
I'm just being honest.
All right.
He was a model, I believe. That's how he got his start, actually.
Well, the good news is, I have a face for radio, except on the Horse Cam. So welcome in. We got a lot more coming here on The Insider. Stay with us. You can always call or text us, as always, on the Epic Companies hotline at 701-476-1660. Kind of that free flow Friday. Whatever's on your mind, text us, call us, let us know what's going on. We'd love to hear from you. What are you excited about baseball season getting started? Maybe you've got a thought there. Things that we've talked about this week on movies. Whatever's on your mind, call us in. We'd love to interact and chat with you again on the Epic Companies hotline, 701-476-1660. You can also email us, as always, on the Rick Electric email inbox, studio@bison1660. The Insider's brought to you by Proceed. When you need seed, think Proceed online at proceed.net. Before we break, I want to go ahead and give away these Garden Show tickets. I just want to let's don't do the Garden Show. We're going to do that towards... Yeah, let's do Garden Show. I'm going to save the Sportsman Show tickets for the end. Let's go Garden Show tickets. I've got 2 of them that I'm going to give away here. Coming up this weekend, it is the Red River Valley Home and Garden Show, February 24th, 25th, and 26th. 2 tickets to the Home and Garden Show. Great time to get out of the cold. Be inside the dome. It's going to be nice. Again, those 2 tickets, all you got to do is be caller number 5, and you will get those Garden Show tickets at 701-476-1660. This day in sports history, our poll of the day when we come back on The Insiders.
This is The Insiders on your exclusive home for North Dakota State Athletics, Bison 1660.
We take great pride in really doing all the research and the work behind the scenes to make sure that our products just work.
We have our own staff member that helps pick the hybrids and the varieties that work in our area. It's meant for you, not for somebody 200 miles away.
We test our seed locally, we produce our seed locally, so we get to see our production fields, where they need to be, and if they work there,
Need seed, think Proseed. Proseed.net, great seed at a reasonable price.
Shop the largest new vehicle inventory in the area, only at Corwin Auto. Corwin Auto has over 600 new vehicles available, and one of them can be yours. You heard me. Over 600 new cars, trucks, SUVs, and crossovers for you to choose from. With inventory like that, you don't have to settle. Find exactly what you are looking for. Have a trade? Get top dollar when you purchase any new in-stock or incoming unit. What are you waiting for? Head to any Corwin Auto location today, or shop online, corwinauto.com.
When it comes to your pet, you only want the best. That's why for the past 5 years, I've put my trust into Nutrisource Pet Foods. When my dog started, she was on the large breed puppy food and has progressed to adult food, and sometimes we need to incorporate the weight management blend. I just love that no matter when my dog is eating, whether it's the dry or wet food like Pura Vida, I never have to worry about rotating her diet or the negative effects because of how great their food is for my pup's gut. Find out more about rotational feeding at NutrisourcePetFoods.com.
Hey, business owners, you have your banker, you have your insurance guy, but do you have your door guy? Now you do. DavTech Window Services also specializes in commercial door and window repair and replacement. DavTech is proud to be known for their excellent commercial services as on the NDSU campus. Choose the door and window experts that will deliver top-rated products as well as the experienced technicians that do it right the first time. A decade of service with a century of experience. Online at DavTechWindowServices.com. That's DavTechWindowServices.com.
Hey Bison Nation, Andy Reckoff here, and I just wanted to take a moment to say we absolutely love our Thoroldson Ethanol Broadcast Center. Love being there every day to bring you the very latest with NDSU athletics, but we're not the only ones that like to be in the studio.
Michael Tutsi with us here live in studio.
Scott Anderson joining us, Director of Multimedia, NDSU.
The athletic director is inside the studio. Matt Larson's joining us. I told you we weren't the only ones. Fuel your future and join the growing team at Thoroldson Ethanol today by going online to ThoroldSonEthanol.com.
And it's booked. Wait, what if my flight gets canceled or the room is terrible? Ugh, what am I doing? Travel always has specials on dream trips. They do corporate travel, honeymoons, everything. I'm booking with Travel just to be safe. This week's Travel hot deal of the week is Sandals South Coast Luxury Over-the-Water Butler Honeymoon Bungalow, an experience you'll never forget. Next January 16th through the 23rd for around $25,000 for two. Call Travel at 492-5000 or online at travelgroup.com.
Whether it's the FCS, NFL, or productivity at work, we have you covered.
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
It's The Insiders on Bison 1660.
I know the mic's hot, but I just love that intro. Love it, man. I'm feeling the good juice in here on a Friday on the Insiders.
I did not think the mic was hot. I heard you
hot.
starting to sing, and yeah, Rob's singing for all our listeners.
How could you not get amped
They
up?
gotta appreciate that, though.
On a Friday. I always say Friday is a Friday, but man, how could you not get amped up? Sun's out. It's cold outside, but you know what? Always beautiful and 72 and sunny here inside the Thoroldson Ethanol Broadcast Studio. We're live from the Thoroldson Ethanol Broadcast Center. Thoroldson Ethanol, one of the nation's largest ethanol facilities. This 175 million gallon per year ethanol plant located just west of Castleton. Fuel your future by joining the growing team. You can view those open positions at ThoroldSonEthanol.com. That's ThoroldSonEthanol.com. It is, though. Yeah, Micah, I always mention this. I mean, you bring the positive energy. Kyle's in here. Everything just feels good. Yesterday it was a good day, but it just maybe it's kind of like you're a Thursday and you're like, okay, I'm ready for Friday to get here. And then Friday finally gets here and you're like, yes, here we go.
You got a couple victories like Micah mentioned.
That's what it is.
Got everyone energized.
That led you into Friday. That's what led us into Friday was great win at the Shack, great win down at Shawnee Arena in St. Paul for the women as well. We got to be feeling good on a Friday after two wins.
I want to say, too, despite the weather, and it was whiteout conditions, luckily the wind had kind of started to die down by tip-off yesterday, but there was still a decent crowd there at the Shack last night. I know I wasn't expecting a huge crowd, but those that showed up, boy, they made up for those that couldn't make it last night. It was very loud inside. The students showed up. The first 200 got the free T-shirts. Saw the bucket hats making a return as well. And then Coach Richmond was playing Houdini. He read my mind on our pregame interview because I was going to talk about the atmosphere and what it's been like at home. And then the following question was going to be, talking about that atmosphere, but then the next question was going to be specifically about the students and the atmosphere that they brought. Well, he answered that question before I even asked it.
He's got you pegged on the what questions you're going to be asking.
Yeah,
he knows you. He knows you well now.
It was a great, though. Bison getting that victory. We'll talk more about NDSU men's basketball as well as this show goes on. Women getting the victory. Andy Rickoff was on the call there at St. Thomas. And so, that's what it is. That's really what it is. It's Friday and a culmination of it being Friday and then basketball both getting wins. Well, I wanted to go over a little fun segment we've been doing the past few days. This day in sports history. And Micah Bendy's going to chime in with some other stuff, too, so stay with us on this one. But on this day in sports history, we'll go back to 1917. Red Sox sell Smokey Joe Wood. At first I thought, Smokey Joe, that sounds like a product, like something you'd buy at the grocery store. But it's not. That was his nickname, Smokey Joe Wood, 1917. His arm became dead at 26. I mean, he fell, had an accident, kind of messed up his thumb, couldn't pitch very well anymore. So they ended up selling him, basically, or trading him over to Cleveland. For how much? Guess how much back in the day?
Well, you already told me, so I know the answer.
Okay, Micah, guess how much back in the day?
What year was this?
1917. How much did he go to Cleveland for?
$1,500.
That's close. $15,000. That's probably a lot of money back then.
That is a lot,
15
actually.
in
Especially for someone who has a messed up arm.
Yeah,
like
15.
Thinking he can't even throw the ball anymore.
$15,000, and I would have said $1,500. $15,000 was kind of surprising.
I would have
to
said
me.
like $500 if you wouldn't have told me. Probably. That's a lot of money. I don't even know what was the minimum salary back then.
I have no idea. Micah, like
like a pair of cleats, a new glove, and $600. Like that was probably the minimum salary back in 1917.
That was it, man. Micah's fired it up, and I know he'll have an answer for us here in a little bit.
They might not even have had one, to be honest.
What'd you find, Micah?
$15,000 in 1917 is equivalent to a $350,000 in today. So that's
okay.
It's a buyout.
Man,
somebody that has
someone who can't
throw.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's why I brought that up today. 1968, Gary Unger begins NHL, National Hockey League, consecutive game record. Check this out, Kyle. And you football guy, I mean, you can appreciate this, especially with hockey. 914 games consecutively played. Can you even fathom that, especially with a sport like hockey?
No, I can't. No, I never played hockey, but I know it's a physical sport. I know it's not an easy sport, and to play that many games consecutive, no injuries, and to just be that consistent with your talent and adding value to a team, impressive.
Kevin Porter of New Jersey back in the day in the NBA set a record 29 assists in one game. Dished it out 29 times in a game. That was back in 1978. 1982, the Boston Celtics on this day began an 18 NBA game winning streak. Well, that's impressive, but it's not the longest. The longest is 33 games with the Lakers that started in the 1971 there through, it was November 5th, 1971 to January the 9th, 1972, as they won 33 straight. But 18 for the Celtics, still a feat. 1982 as well, Wayne Gretzky scores an NHL record, 78th goal of the season en route to 92. Also in 87, Lakers center Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scores his 36,000th NBA point in a 97-93 win over the Suns in Phoenix. Of course, we know that record recently broken. And then something to take you back, and I think we can all remember. It's like those big events that happen in life. Like I know exactly where I was at, and I can almost recall the entire day of September the 11th. This, I think, most of us, and Micah, you were here, of course, then. Kyle was here. 2020, it was the memorial service for NBA star Kobe Bryant held at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. I don't recall what I was doing while I was watching the memorial service. They were streaming, and I saw that. But I can recall most of the day of when I heard the news that Kobe had passed away.
Same. I could tell you, I was in my, she would have been my girlfriend at the time, my now wife's apartment in Minneapolis, and her roommate, I still remember it to this day, is like, this can't be true. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, someone said like Kobe Bryant just died. And still remember it to this day. He was I've said it before on the show, he was my favorite NBA athlete after Michael Jordan. Because Michael Jordan, I was really young. I remember him. I liked him, but I was really, really young. And then it was, here comes Kobe Bryant. And it's like, this is kind of the, if you will, the next coming of Michael. And I loved watching Kobe, and that was a devastating day for me, to say the least, as it was for a lot of people around the country.
Yeah.
Yep. I was at my nephew's first birthday party, and I was scouring through Twitter, and I was just like, wow, that's a nice troll tweet. Kobe Bryant's dead. Yeah, that's not hilarious at all. And then it just kept coming out, and then you learn that it was true.
Yeah, I remember I was eating breakfast, and we were at a restaurant, and it was the strangest feeling because everybody's phones, we're in a society now, like everybody's always on their phone. I'll be honest, like Bridget and I, we've got a rule that's like no phones when we go out to eat, and we do not, I'm not knocking, like if you do it with whatever, that's your style, but it's not our style. I'm not a fan of it, especially with kiddos. Like, we have Braylon a little tablet. She only gets to watch it maybe 30 minutes a day. I don't want her to get addicted to it, especially when we go out to eat. I do not put that thing doesn't even come out of the car. It's like we want to interact with her. But I remember that day specifically, everybody starts looking at their phones, and everybody just had this wow look on their face. Even people that maybe weren't even basketball fans. Everybody knew Kobe. But his memorial service was held on this day back in 2020. Want to quickly, briefly discuss our poll of the day. Micah had a good one as he was coming in today, and probably, what you had to do triggered this poll today. It has to relate to an automobile. What do you got for us today, Micah?
Well, this morning I knew it was going to be really cold, and I was getting to that just under a fourth of a tank of gas, and that's when you kind of when you're reaching the limit here in the Midwest. That's when you want to fill up, especially when it's this cold. Don't want my truck sitting out there with less than a fourth of a tank of gas. So I was like, all right, I'm going to prepay. I'm going to prepay inside. I don't have to stand outside, push all the buttons. Like, are you a rewards member? Is this a debit? What is your
car
PIN?
wash?
Do you want a car wash? Blah, blah, blah. Would you like to ask me my address as well? My social security? It's just a bunch of ridiculous questions outside, and it's too cold for that. I don't want to do that. So I was like, I'm going to prepay. So I did my thing, got some breakfast inside the gas station, also prepaid at the same time, went out to my car, put the nozzle right into the vehicle, and then I just sat in my warm car the rest of the time. I want to know what other people do on super cold days. Do you guys prepay, or do you sit there and then push the buttons on the machine outside?
So
that's going to be the poll of the day.
That's your poll of the day. Do you prepay for inside gas when it's ridiculously cold outside? I will say this. They always say turn your engines off. I don't ever turn my engine off, regardless, even if it's winter or summer. I always leave the engine on when I pump
You're going
gas.
to blow up the gas station, Rob.
See, I've done that before, too, and I think I did it one time around my lovely mother, and she was like, what are you doing, Kyle? What are you doing? And I ever since then, I don't do it anymore. I turn it off. I just deal with it.
You don't want to deal with it. And I remember as a kid, my grandmother would always, they had a gas stove, at the house, and she would always check. Her biggest thing, and I miss my grandma, love her dearly. We communicate almost every day of my adult life and miss her. She passed at 94 years young, had a full, fruitful life. I mean, she was amazing. But she would even up until the last days, and she pretty much was okay the day before she passed away. It was just one of those things. It's like, okay, sayonara, time to go. But she would always check the stove every night. Even after the gas stove days, she would still check the electric stove to make sure it was off before she went to sleep. And now I have a habit of doing that, making sure that stoves are off, thanks to my grandmother. So that's a legacy that one of the many amazing legacies that she left for me was making sure, though, that the stove is turned off before I go to sleep. That is your poll of the day. Micah, we've got just a couple of minutes. There were some things also that happened overnight, some storylines that we wanted to talk involving Lamar Jackson, also Russell Wilson.
Well, the first one on Russell Wilson, it was reported earlier this morning that Russell Wilson back in 2022, before he got traded from the Seattle Seahawks, he went to the owner of the Seahawks to try and get his head coach, Pete Carroll, then at the Seahawks, and his GM, John Schneider, fired because he felt like they were impeding him on winning a Super Bowl. That was the report that came out this morning. Then Russell Wilson rebuttals that on Twitter, saying, I love Pete, and he was a father figure to me, and John believed in me and drafted me as well. I never wanted them fired. All any of us wanted was to win. I'll always have respect for them and love for Seattle. I don't believe him. It seems like a Russell Wilson thing to do to try and, I don't know. I'm not a big Russell Wilson fan, so it's hard to believe him in this situation.
I'm not either, but at this point, I'm almost starting to feel bad for the guy. Now, part of it he brought upon himself, with him having his own office and everything. And I just read something where he told his teammates he has an open door policy, and it's wait, what? You're our teammate. Why do we need an open door policy to come to your office? Why do you even have an office? So part of it, I understand it, but he's got to be he's just been getting dunked on now. And again, he also played really, really poorly last year, so it's kind of warranted. But this is such a bold strategy. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the franchise quarterback, as he was, won Super Bowls as he did. To try and get your two immediate bosses fired. I don't know, man. Obviously the Athletic, you would think they have some pretty reliable source to post an article like this, but is that really true? It just seems wild to me that you would even try that.
Micah and I were joking about this earlier. It was really Micah and I think of a president back in the 90s, and I think of his voice, and Russell Wilson, though, speaking in his voice. saying, I did not. Micah, you know what it is.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I did not try and get Pete and John fired.
That's what he did this morning. Came out on Twitter and said it.
He just put it out there. Then some news also circulating Lamar Jackson this or overnight as well.
Then Lamar Jackson, it has been reported from Jeremy Fowler and others at ESPN last night that he has been looking for more guaranteed dollars than what Deshaun Watson got with the Browns. But then coming back this morning, someone in Lamar Jackson's camp contacted Stephen A. Smith at ESPN saying that he has not asked for that. He has not asked for that much guaranteed dollars, and then also that the Ravens are only willing to give him $133 million guaranteed, and that's where they stop. But they're offering him around $50 million per year. Just not all of that money is guaranteed.
All right. Which goes back to what we talked about a couple days ago. Like, it seems like these two are completely off. Like, I had heard of reports that they were up to $100 million off, and this kind of confirms that because if he's asking for more than Deshaun Watson was 230.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably asking for about 235-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood, fully guaranteed, and they're saying, well, we'll give you 130-ish. So they're $100 million off.
When I hear the way these are described, and everyone says it, I mean, all the news media, everybody, the way you described it, I mean, it's because it's the way it's described whenever you say in his camp. I just think of about a lot of guys like huddled together in a tent, drinking coffee, singing Kumbaya, and trying
Camp
to figure
Jackson.
out things. It's their camp. They are in the camp together.
Camp Jackson's trying to figure it out.
But a couple of storylines overnight. Micah, thanks for the updates there. This hour of The Insiders brought to you by our friends at Rick Electric. When you need electrical work, you need Rick Electric. For over 56 years, Rick Electric has been providing excellent electrical service for your homes and businesses. Visit them online at rickelectric.com. We'll step aside, take a break. Western Illinois radio play-by-play man BJ Stone joins us on the Epic Companies hotline on the other side. This is The Insiders.
Hear the herd here. Bison's 1660.
Hi, it's Sandy from Raybon Sew and Quilt Shop. You know, Jennifer and I love stitching all kinds of bags. Handbags, tote bags, organizers. If it's a bag, we like to make it. Join us for a weekend of working on bags at your own pace. For $159, you can join us and make your own bag. Registration includes a 6-foot table, lunch, trunk show, instructor assistance, games, and prizes, all at the Country Inn and Suites. For more information or to register, stop into the shop or visit us at ray-bond.com.
Rice Companies understands that strong buildings and strong communities start with strong connections. They know the importance of every bolt, every beam, and every handshake. Every connection must be strong. When you work with Rice Companies, you're building on more than concrete and steel. You're building on knowledge and expertise with people you can trust. People who value your investment as much as you do. Connect with Rice Companies, your local Butler builder, and experience the difference strong connections can make for your business. Learn more and see career opportunities at ricecompanies.com.
Shop the largest new vehicle inventory in the area, only at Corwin Auto. Corwin Auto has over 600 new vehicles available, and one of them can be yours. You heard me. Over 600 new cars, trucks, SUVs, and crossovers for you to choose from. With inventory like that, you don't have to settle. Find exactly what you are looking for. Have a trade? Get top dollar when you purchase any new in-stock or incoming unit. What are you waiting for? Head to any Corwin Auto location today, or shop online, corwinauto.com.
Jeremy here at Horsch in Mapleton. Did you know that Horsch manufactures premier planting, seeding, and tillage solutions right here in the FM area? We are proud to be a family-owned business based out of Germany and would love for you to join our team right here in Mapleton. We offer competitive pay, full benefits, and paid family time from Christmas to New Year's. Please visit Horsch.com to view our current openings.
Here's your Red River Valley weather update on Bison 1660.
It's been a cold Friday with increasing clouds throughout the day and a high near 2 below. Overnight, mostly cloudy, then gradually becoming mostly clear with a low around 11 below. Wind chill values 25 below. This weather update brought to you by Minn Kota Windows. Just when your kids thought it was time to head outside, a cold snap rolls in. Ditch the coat and snuggle up with peace of mind, knowing that Minn Kota's energy-efficient vinyl will block out the brutal cold and save you money. Midwest built, Midwest tough, guaranteed for life.
Hey, hon, gotta go. I got pizza. The pizza's calling me.
Honey, are you going out in the cold with the guys again?
Well, yeah, there's gonna be Pizza Patrol.
Is that why you go ice fishing?
Hello, there's gonna be Pizza Patrol.
Can we watch a movie tonight once you get back?
you order Pizza Patrol, I'm there.
Call 241-9000 or order online at 241-9000.com.
And I just want to put, was that a yes? Like, there will be Pizza Patrol.
You are the one to serve it. I keep them on the roll. You know you really are for the Pizza Patrol.
Here for you for all the Bison football coverage you can handle.
These guys do an unbelievable job, and you want to know what's going on in Bison sports, tune into the Insiders.
The Insiders on Bison 1660 and 92.7 FM.
A little after 11:30 here on a Friday in Fargo, frigid Fargo on a Friday. Thanks for joining us here on the Insiders. Kyle Emanuel, Bison Great, Micah Bendy. I always forget the nickname Micah every time.
Bison above average.
Bison above average. Micah Bendy joining us. Rob Hipp here. Thanks for tuning in with us wherever you are. 1660 AM, 92.7 FM, and across the digital landscape on the Bison 1660 app. Make sure you download it. If you have not, you can join us wherever you may be. Also, those of you on the Bison 1660 Facebook page, on the Horse Cam, we welcome you in, and on streaming on Bison1660.com. This hour of the Insiders is brought to you by Wimmer's Diamonds, a local family-owned jeweler serving and believing in this community for over 100 years. Stop in and see them at their new showroom, 4582 32nd Avenue South in Fargo. Let's head back over to the Epic Companies hotline as we are now joined by Western Illinois radio play-by-play man BJ Stone. BJ, good to hear from you. How are things in your neck of the woods? I don't believe it's probably 20 below there, is it?
No, we're looking at about 24 above, so we are exactly on the opposite side of zero that you are.
All right, don't rub that in too much, BJ. But the good news is, and Midwesterner as well, but there's no wind and it's sunny, so that 20 below doesn't feel too bad this morning if you're outside for 5 or 6 seconds.
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in Minnesota. This is walk to school weather. So.
All right. Well, hey, wanted to get you on. I know that you weren't able to make the trip down here for this game, but you do cover men's basketball, of course, the voice of football as well. And we look at Western Illinois, 16-12 this season, 9-8 in the Summit League. And this is a team that, I think going into the preseason that a lot of folks may have not thought that they were going to be this good. But you've seen, and I'm definitely not taking anything away, you see guys like Trenton Masner who have really came on, Alec Rosner, several others on this roster. Just what have been your thoughts on this team this year and how good that they have played?
Well, I think Coach Jeter and his staff have done an amazing job of bringing some real athletes into the program. These guys play best, Rob, when they play above the rim. Josiah West is a leaper. Quinlan Bennett, Trenton Masner can throw down some amazing slams when he gets to the paint. These guys play the game at that level, and when they are allowed to do that, they're tough to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look down now through the rest of the league and taking care of North Dakota. That has been a team that has also kind of been a surprise. But you guys go down there on Thursday, you get the victory, 81-70. St. Thomas has kind of been the tough matchup for a lot of schools this year. Lost that game 69-82, and then hung pretty tough with Oral Roberts back on February the 11th. As you've looked down the stretch, what have you seen from the Leathernecks?
Well, when the Leathernecks play a decent first half, look out, because they have been a second half team for most of the year, both on the road and at home. When we went down to Kansas City, it was a low scoring affair, and the second half they played very well and dominated Kansas City. Now the Roos came back up here and beat Western at Western Hall because they dug too big of a hole for them. Well, actually in that game, Western led at halftime and lost in the second half, but the trend for most of the second half of the season has been to fall behind at halftime and then come back strong with a vengeance. Came back 22 down against South Dakota State to beat them in the second half. We were 21 down at the half against Oral Roberts, came back and made that a 4-point game, briefly a 3-point game before losing by 6. So it's a team that when they can play offense down on their end in front of the coaching staff, look out.
BJ, I wanted to ask you put you on the spot a little bit, and I know you're going to be biased, and as we are here at NDSU, we have someone that we think is probably worthy of Summit League Player of the Year in Grant Nelson. You guys have Trenton Masner down there. A lot of people will look to Asmus at Oral Roberts, but if you had to vote right now, who would be your Summit League Player of the Year?
Well, and you said it, there's a little bias there. I've seen Trenton do some amazing things. He averaged 40 points in the 2 games against North Dakota. He has had some off shooting nights. And when he's off, he still contributes with rebounds and assists. If I had to vote, honestly, as an outsider, I would probably go with Max. But as an insider and somebody who's seen more Western games than anything else, I would vote for Trenton. And in Grant's case, too, you've got three deserving players. I'd love to see a three-way tie.
Again, we have BJ Stone with us, joining us here, Western Illinois radio play-by-play man on the Epic Companies hotline. A big matchup coming up here to end the regular season at North Dakota State. That's why we wanted to have you on. 1 o'clock tip-off tomorrow. What do you really feel like Western Illinois has to do against a Bison team that is really finding some life as they usually do here in February?
Well, when the two teams met beginning of the season, that's a world ago, right? That was December. The first game of the conference season, and Grant Nelson went off, but the rest of the team struggled against the Leathernecks. I believe the final was 79-60 in favor of Western Illinois. I think Western has to do a better job with Grant this time. Keep him off the glass, keep him from getting to his spot on the block. I think on the other end of the court, for North Dakota State, obviously the key is always going to be to keep an eye on Trenton Masner, but if you don't put a man on Alec Rosner, he'll hurt you. If you don't put a man inside on Vuk Stevanic, I call him the Serbian stallion. He's got some moves inside, and he can make things happen. And I just think it's going to be a good matchup for Western. It's win to get third. You lose, you can finish as low as fifth, So it's an important game for Western. If NDSU wins, they're the number 3 seed right down the line. And I think this is great to have a game with so much on the line. Who wants to be the number 4 seed and have to go against ORU in the semifinals, right?
Yeah, agree 100%.
I got a question just about based off matchups for the Summit League tournament. I asked this to Corbustathis from St. Thomas. What matchup in the Summit League of like the top 4 or 5 teams do you like the most versus Western Illinois?
To be honest, I like the matchup with North Dakota State. We played very well against the Bison the first time, but also we have split with St. Thomas, Oral Roberts. I think any of those 3 teams we're talking about, and South Dakota State, can beat Oral Roberts on any given day. Oral Roberts has been amazing to run the table to this point, but matchup-wise, I like the North Dakota State matchup simply because of the confidence that Western will have after beating them at home. And I also like the South Dakota State matchup. I know they're very hot right now. Western's the last team to beat South Dakota State, but for whatever reason, after that 22-point comeback, the Leathernecks have confidence there too.
All right, well, there he is. Again, appreciate you, BJ. Thanks for your valuable insight here with Western Illinois. Looking forward to that matchup on Saturday, and you can find BJ Stone on his Twitter at Spoon River Sport. BJ, as always, we appreciate you very much, my friend.
I wish I was up there, not for the weather, but for the game.
You got it.
You guys have a great call tomorrow.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Always good to catch up with BJ there again, the Western Illinois radio play-by-play man. Again, you can find him on Twitter at Spoon River Sport. Yeah, an interesting matchup, and like he said, and we'll talk more about that with Steeman coming up here with Greg Steeman later on in the show, but, he's right. For NDSU, you win. You have that 3rd seed secured. For Western, if they don't win, they could go down as low as 5, and you definitely don't want to be that 4 seed as you head into the Summit League tournament down in Sioux Falls. We'll step aside. We'll take a break. Bison men and women's basketball getting dubs last night. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is The Insiders.
Where the Bison roam. Bison 1660.
It's Chris Hansen, and for years we have trusted the experts at Rick Electric. Since 1964, Rick Electric has been the go-to for residential, commercial, and industrial. And right now is a great time to consider having a Generac whole home generator installed. If the power goes out, you'll barely notice because of an automatic seamless transition. For work in Fargo, Moorhead, Hawley, Horace, Glendon, Dilworth, Kindred, and everywhere in between, it's Rick Electric at rickelectric.com.
Experience is what builds the future of glass at Cardinal IG in Fargo. Cardinal IG is leading the industry in the development of superior glass for the residential window industry. Their highly motivated and talented employees design and manufacture the best glass in the industry. This February, Cardinal IG would like to say thank you to Michael Johnson, Elisa Henjum, and Elizabeth Victor, who are all celebrating their first year at Cardinal IG. To view open positions or to apply, visit CardinalFargo.com. That's CardinalFargo.com.
Papa Murphy's $9.99 extra large New York style pizza is a big deal. So we're going big to tell everyone about it. How big? We're talking action movie big. Carving $9.99 XLNY into a mountainside big. And shouting it from the literal mountaintops big. Because the XLNY is everything you can expect from a classic New York-style pizza, hot and fresh out of your oven for just $9.99. Order the XLNY pizza at papamurphys.com.
Put that tax return to good use this year by paying cash for your next vehicle at Corwin Public Wholesale. Shop over 300 used vehicles at wholesale prices with vehicles starting at just $900. You might even have some cash left over. Cars, trucks, crossovers, and SUVs. They have it all at wholesale prices. Get more for your tax return this year at Corwin Public Wholesale. Corwin Public Wholesale, where your tax dollar goes further this tax season. Located right on the I-29 frontage road, Fargo.
Dakota Refrigeration, now known as DRI, has been serving Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Montana for over 4 decades. Locally owned and operated since 1974, DRI is a full-service source for your refrigeration, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and electrical service needs. From the entryway to the kitchen, from hot to cold, from dreary to bright, DRI has you covered. DRI, formerly Dakota Refrigeration, with locations in Fargo, Bismarck, and Minot, online at dacref.com.
When it's time to find a realtor, word of mouth is important, and Todd Cattermas with Beyond Realty is a name Bison Nation says often. Todd has helped everyone from coaches and administrators to broadcasters and former players and their families buy homes in the FM area. So many in Bison Nation trust Todd to buy and sell their homes, and you can too. Call Todd Cattermas with Beyond Realty today or visit him at 4832 Amber Valley Parkway in Fargo. Todd is a proud partner and the preferred realtor of NDSU Athletics. Todd Cattermas with Beyond Realty, moving the herd one home at a time.
Hail to Bison, right here, your home for NDSU sports. This is Bison 1660.
I got it here on the Insiders as we wrap up the first hour of this segment, brought to you by Wimmer's Diamonds. For over 103 years, they've watched you fall in love and stay in love, providing beautiful reminders to celebrate all your special moments. It's Wimmer's Diamonds, 4582 32nd Avenue South in Fargo. It's good to catch up with BJ there. His phone was having a little bit of an issue coming back to us, but always good to hear from him and check up with Western Illinois. He's not making that trip, but the Leathernecks will be ready to play, and that leads us into basketball discussion as NDSU men taking care of business last night versus a very tough and talented St. Thomas team. The Bison improving to 13-16 overall, but what's most important is that Summit League play, and now 10-7. They get to 10 wins here in the Summit, an opportunity to go for 11 versus Western Illinois on Saturday. But it was a good effort, though. Got started a little bit slow for the Bison as they trailed by 3 at the half, but turning things up there in the second half last night at the Schill Center, a 73-64 victory over the Tommies. And once again, it was Grant Nelson who had a phenomenal playing night. I believe it was his 7th double-double in a row if you go back to USD, where all of that started in that loss. But Grant Nelson has been that force, and head coach Dave Richmond there after the game had a few things to say after the Bison with that 73-64 victory.
It's important as I work to be a better version of myself that we take time and make sure and enjoy this victory. Victories are hard to come by. Definitely thought we flipped the switch in the second half and were able to push through. Credit the guys. I'm still greedy, still hungry. Don't want to be playing our perfect brand of basketball right now, but do want to be rounding into form. I thought last weekend we were playing better, and then here today I just thought I didn't really recognize the group for a minute there in the first half. But credit the guys, they responded in the second half. And one thing, Oral Roberts and St. Thomas, I believe, are 1-2 in the league and in scoring and all those, and we've held both of them under 37%. We were dominant again on the glass. We just got to clean some things up offensively with some rhythm. We're not shooting the ball great, obviously, right now. Too many turnovers again. Good. That's why I'm employed. I have something to do here the next couple of days.
Always love hearing from head coach Dave Richmond. And one thing about Coach Richmond is he knows there's always room to improve. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He'll say, hey, we're going to celebrate this one, but there's still a lot of things that we have to work on. And he said, look, I don't want us to peak right now. We need to continue to get better and play better. And Summit League tournament's right around the corner, but they're not even thinking about the tournament right now. From the coaching perspective, they're thinking about Western Illinois on Saturday. But a great game yesterday. I know you had a chance there to really catch that second half and saw the Bison with a strong finish. Finished great from the free throw line, and then also Bowden Skunberg getting his second double-double of the season.
Well, yeah, and it was spread out evenly. I was just looking back to, I know this isn't Western Illinois, but I was looking back to the last time they played Western, and, BJ mentioned it. Grant Nelson had 35 in that game, and no one else had more than 10. When you look at this game, you got 20 from Grant Nelson, you got 10 from Andrew Morgan, you got 16 from Bowden Skunberg, 13 from Wheeler Thomas. I mean, it was just spread out, and it seemed like to me, and again, I only caught the second half, but it seemed like athletically, size-wise, like St. Thomas could just not match up. And I might be stating the obvious if you saw maybe their first game, but St. Thomas live and die by the three. I mean, that's what I figured out watching that second half. And when you're not making them, well, what are you going to do? You're going to die, and you're going to lose some games. Now, credit NDSU for their defense. I thought they did a good job of contesting a lot of those three-pointers, but they weren't falling. But then you looked at the offensive side of the ball, and I think this is where you got some frustration from Coach Richmond. When they did turn the ball over, it seemed like they scored. They were knocking down shots in that second half. They were getting to the hoop at will. It seemed like any time someone had a one-on-one, they were winning off the dribble, and it wasn't just Grant Nelson. Jakari White had a nice move there at the end to get to the hoop. A couple and ones from Bowden Skunberg. There was some impressive things in that second half offensively, but yeah, you could sense the frustration from Coach Richmond because at the end of the game, you had a chance to put it away. Couple sloppy turnovers, kept it a game a little bit towards the end. But the other thing they did really well, and I don't know if he mentioned it there, the shot from the free throw line. Phenomenal.
90%.
90% from the free throw line, and I know that's been something, that's been a point of emphasis for them. So some good things moving forward into this last game of the regular season.
If you're trying to close out games, you need to make your free throws in the clutch, especially if it's just only a two-possession game or even a one-possession game. You need to make it a two-possession game. Just keep that free throw game going because if you're making two free throws every single time, and maybe they get a three here and there, but typically teams are going to have to make a three-pointer, and they're not always going to hit that tough three on the other end because usually it's rushed. NDSU, make your free throws. You can win games. They won the defensive glass. And you mentioned just the physicality. Parker Bjorklund could not keep up with the size and strength of Andrew Morgan.
No, could not.
Oh, my gosh. It was irritating me to no end watching that on TV. I could see Parker Bjorklund he did like what NBA players do when they go in the lane. They give a little scream, and then they fling their head back. It's like, oh!
A lot of flopping.
Like flailing, just trying to draw that foul because he knew that Morgs had him beat on the post-up, and like Andrew Morgan had him sealed, and the pass was going to come in because Bjorklund lost position between himself and the hoop between Andrew Morgan. Morgan was going to have an easy dunk, and then he just flings his head back multiple times. Just like I'm surprised there wasn't a flop warning last night.
Well, Damari Wheeler-Thomas finishing up with 13 points. He has really been that pure shooter. He's really starting to develop his game. Exciting thing about DWT, he's only a freshman, so there's still a lot of room for him to grow and mature with this program, not only through the remainder of this season and then the tournament, but as well as future seasons here with NDSU. There was also another record that was set at the Shill Center last night. It wasn't the rebounds. The Bison had 42 rebounds, I believe, in that game. A great job on the rebounding side. You mentioned the defensive glass as well. We saw Joshua Strike getting more offensive rebounds that were leading to baskets, as we always talk about those second chance points opportunities. But the other stat that was a record setter at the Shill Center, as I was calling this game, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. There was nothing inside that was working early on for St. Thomas, really throughout the entire game. You mentioned the bigs that were down there taking care of business. Well, St. Thomas, this was a game where they set a Shill Center record, 46 three-point attempts in the game. I can't even fathom that. And it was just because you have guys like Grant Nelson and Andrew Morgan down there really controlling the paint. There were some points in the paint by St. Thomas. I think they even led that category, but it was an opportunity for them. They weren't able to get inside, and they had to jack up a lot of threes last night.
46 of their 67 shots beyond the arc. That is just ridiculous. We've heard the term. You say it all the time, live or die by the three. They died by the three because they couldn't make it. They end this game shooting 12 of 46. That's 26%. If you're not making it at least a 30% clip, then you might not win a game if you're shooting that many threes.
Yeah, and I think at halftime they were over that 30% mark. I think they were around like 34, 36% at halftime, and they had the 3-point lead. And they came out in that second half, like I mentioned, and I think I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say like the first 9 3-pointers of the second half did not fall, and they really didn't start to fall until NDSU had built up like a 10-point lead, and they were kind of in that desperation mode a little bit. So, yeah, it was it's fortunate for NDSU that they're a little bit off, but again, like I said, you have to give credit. You can't just say that they were shooting cold because they were shooting it okay in the first half and just wasn't falling in that second half. And that's what they do. That's what some teams do. And like we said, that's why the saying is what it is, right? You live and die by it, and it just didn't work out for them last night.
I do want to correct what I said because NDSU did outscore them in the paint. The Bison had 34 down in the paint. But surprisingly, St. Thomas had 22 points down in the paint. And you kind of find that as a surprising stat considering, with your bigs down there with Grant Nelson and Andrew Morgan. But you've got guys like Bjorklund who played very good for that St. Thomas team last night. Andrew Rohde, who did not play in the previous matchup, he put up 20 against the Bison. But still, NDSU there really strong in that second half after getting out to a slow start, trailing by 3, turned on the Rockets and the juice, and victorious there, taking care of St. Thomas last night. That will set up a good showdown versus Western Illinois on Saturday. That game tomorrow, Micah Bendy will have shoot-around starting on the Fox on 107.9 at noon, and then Dexter Warner and I will be on at 12:30 with pregame, and then we'll have tip-off at 1 o'clock. But, again, we know you like listening on the radio from time to time, but if you can, get out there, support these young men at the Shill Center. If you're in the Fargo area, we need to pack the Shack again. You can get those tickets at gobison.com. On the other side as well, women, they're taking care of business. They were on the road last night in a 64-44 victory versus St. Thomas on the road after really battling Oral Roberts in a dominating 103-86 performance back on Saturday. So the women taking care of business 64-44 in that contest. And not a bad game for the girls as they got started out, played hot. Elle Evans pacing the Bison there, had double figures in scoring for the 11th straight game, had a game-best 17 points on 7 of 11 shooting from the field, and Andy's on the calls for those. But the women, the ladies, they're playing phenomenally this season as well, Mike.
And what you could say, just based off that score, that's a pretty low-scoring game for the NDSU women. The women usually get to that 70-80 mark, and not that they've been poor on the defensive end, but other teams have been scoring, like you just mentioned, Oral Roberts got up all the way up to 83. Well, 44 points giving up in a college basketball game is hard to do, men or women. And I would say I was more proud of the defense in that performance for the Bison women in that one.
Well, and the thing that stuck out to me was from both sides. We just heard Coach Richmond a little frustrated from that first half performance. NDSU women, did you guys catch the score at halftime by any chance? Because I saw they put it up on TV when I was watching.
Super low-scoring affair.
18-17 was the score. St. Thomas actually up at halftime, up 18-17. NDSU with only 6 points in the first quarter. St. Thomas with 8.
Yeah, they led 8-6
in the first
St.
quarter.
Thomas.
8-6 at the end of the first quarter. But in the second half, NDSU goes 24 in the third, 23 in the fourth. St. Thomas goes 9 points in the third, 17 in the fourth. So like you said, the offense was struggling a little bit in the first half, but really picked it up. And, that's a testament to both teams finding some things you struggle with in the first half, making those adjustments, and coming out with the victory.
And there's talk, too, if they can hold on here, I think in that second spot in the Summit League, there could be a bid to the WNIT. And, of course, Andy Rickoff calling those games. He'll have more insight onto that as he will be back with us next week on the Insiders. That's a look at NDSU basketball. We'll keep things focused on basketball as we step aside and take a break. Benjamin Bornstein, writer with Project Spurs, he'll talk Grant Nelson and his article when we come back to wrap up here on the Insiders.
I'm Alexa, and my family chose Rusco Windows. We had quite a few consults come through, and Rusco, you couldn't beat the price point. And then they just had such a way with clear communication each step of the way.
Hi, this is Jeff Olson from Rusco Window and Cabinets. With 4 generations, 70 years, and over 1 million installations by our family, it's easy to see why we're your window and cabinet experts. RuscoWindowCompany.com.
It's Rusco.
Hi, I'm Grant Nelson, NDSU Bison basketball player. Whether it's playing basketball or driving in my car, I want to do everything to the best of my ability, on the court and off the court. So when I'm in the car, I up my game with the Drive for Less program from Nodak Insurance. I could save up to 30% on my premium just for driving safely. To me, that's a slam dunk. Download the Nodak Insurance app today.
Snow, ice, and below zero temps. Typical Midwest weather, but not so kind to your vehicle. That's why Jiffy Lube of Fargo is here to make sure you have your vehicle in top working condition and ready for these winter roads and temps. Oil changes are the #1 maintenance item that's neglected. At Jiffy Lube of Fargo, no appointment needed at any of the 3 locally owned locations. Jiffy Lube of Fargo, where you can do more in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube of Fargo, proudly serving the metro area for 5 decades.
way. Start building your career at Doosan Bobcat in Gwinner today. Bobcat Gwinner is currently hiring for assemblers and welders. Bobcat Gwinner offers competitive pay, great benefits, opportunities for long-term growth, and a $5,000 relocation bonus for qualified candidates. If you're ready to build what's next, apply today. Doosan Bobcat. Even their careers are built better. For more information or to apply, visit bobcat.com/nowhiring. That's bobcat.com/nowhiring.
Let's get ready to place your bets. Stop in to the region's favorite sportsbook. Dakota Nation Sportsbook offers something for every type of bettor. Follow your favorite teams on the wall-to-wall big screens inside of our action-packed fan-fueled venue. Food, drinks, and real-time odds. Bet on a winning combination of fun and action when you visit this Vegas-style sportsbook located inside of Dakota Magic Casino. We even offer stay-and-play packages. DakotaNationSportsbook.com. Must be on-site to place bets.
So I can buy the Chevy truck for $4,000 less than invoice?
Yes, you can at Gateway Chevrolet in Fargo. Up to $2,000 customer cash or 2.9% financing for 60 months. Plus up to $2,000 loyalty cash on select new Chevy trucks. Shop the savings on all new Chevrolets today at Gateway Chevrolet. Save thousands with 2.9% financing for 60 months on select models. Only at Gateway Chevrolet in Fargo. Find new roads. Details gatewayfargo.com.
KQWB West Fargo, KPFX HD3 Kindred, and K224FD Fargo. Bison 1660, powered by Gateway Chevrolet, Cadillac, Nissan, and Hyundai in Fargo.
And here's what you need to know.
Big coaching change in college basketball as the University of Mississippi has announced they fired head men's basketball coach Kermit Davis with just a week left in the regular season. He went just 2-13 in SEC conference play. NFL news, The Athletic reports quarterback Russell Wilson asked ownership to fire Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll and general manager John Snyder before he was traded to Denver. Wilson's lawyer called the report, quote, entirely fabricated. ESPN saying that Jeff Bezos has hired an investment firm to explore a possible purchase of the Washington Commanders. The team announced in November that they'd hired Bank of America to look into what they call possible transactions involving the franchise. NBA action last night, the Celtics improved to an NBA best 43-17 as they beat the Pacers on the road in overtime 142-138. The Nuggets improved to a West best 42-18 as they beat the Cavaliers 115-109. I'm Kevin Wyatt.
You've got the insiders.
How you play today, from this moment on, is how you will be remembered.
That's what living is. That's right. The 6 inches in front of your face.
Bringing you what you need to know and a whole lot more. Topics you care about, guests you know, and the conversations you came to hear. The Insiders are presented by Proceed. Need seed? Think Proceed.
This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Now, here are the Insiders.
The Insiders. The Insiders.
The Insiders.
Insiders.
Rob Hipp and Andy Rickoff.
Top of the hour here as we get reset. I said we'll wrap it up on the instrument. Wrap up the first hour. Welcome back in here. Thanks for joining us. Kyle Emanuel, Micah Bendy, Rob Hipp here on Bison 1660 on the AM Landscape 92.7 throughout Fargo in the area and also on the Bison 1660 app. Always appreciate you joining us here as we close out a long week, but it has been a fun week filled full of a lot of news, a lot of events, a lot of things happening around NDSU. The Insiders, as always, brought to you by Proceed. When you need seed, think Proceed online at proceed.net. One of the big storylines that's emerging, we've talked a lot about NDSU men's basketball, and especially over the past 3 or 4 weeks now after a Twitter tweet went viral of Grant Nelson, over 2 million views or so. There's been a lot of national attention now on the young man from here playing for NDSU. Grant Nelson getting that national attention. We'll head over to the Epic Companies hotline now as Ben Bornstein, writer with Project Spurs, joins us on the Epic Companies hotline. Ben, how you doing? Good to have you, and how are things in Texas? I heard it was almost 90 degrees there the other day.
Yes, getting hot. They say it's spring. Apparently that groundhog doesn't know all that much about Texas. But it's going real well. Appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you, Ben. Saw your article that you wrote there for Project Spurs. I had to call you because I'm a big Spurs fan, and it really piqued my interest when someone from down in the Lone Star State is picking up news about Grant Nelson and also publishing that. it's kind of where I'll lead in with this question. How did you latch on to Grant? What led you to write the story, especially being that far south?
So I cover a lot of NBA draft prospects, and you know, as you know, as a Spurs fan, the Spurs are kind of they're locked in for likely a top 5 pick, and so you're kind of thinking, all right, they'll have their pick of the litter of who they want for NBA prospects, but they still have a second round pick they have to use. Who can they use it on? I've written about a bunch of first round guys this year, and so I thought it was only right to start really looking at second round guys, and Grant Nelson kind of sparked my interest. I think I saw that same video that a lot of other people saw. One you mentioned, it's got 2 million views, and I said, okay, there's got to be more than just this video. So I went looking around, found some tape, found some guys who were doing some real scouting reports, and ended up watching some highlights for myself and said, I mean, it's not just that he's this kind of viral sensation. He has a legitimate shot at making an NBA team, and I think he is absolutely worth spending a second-round pick on.
Ben, there was another article that came out from The Athletic that I found very interesting, and they said they talked to 6 NBA scouts and asked who they would choose, Grant Nelson or Purdue's Zach Edey, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, with a 7'4" center from Purdue, and it says that all 6 picked Grant Nelson. When you hear that, I guess, first and foremost, do you agree? And if so, why? If not, why not?
So, for me, I think that says a lot about where the NBA is heading and where it is now. If you ask that same question, I think in the 90s, all of those same scouts would have told you Zach Edey is the guy. And a lot of that is because of the way the NBA is played now. You have guys like Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, these big men who can initiate offense, who can shoot the ball. They don't exclusively play back to the basket. And that's why I like Grant Nelson as well. Having said that, I'm pretty sure Zach Edey is going to win National Player of the Year, and he's going to get drafted in the second round as well. But I think if I had my choice, I would also choose a Grant Nelson.
Did Grant Nelson, his draft stock as of right now, would you say that it is in the second round if he came out right after this basketball season?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say he's in the second round. I think depending on who you ask, that's where you'll get kind of a range of where in the second round, because I think the Spurs would likely have a pick in those first 10 picks in the second round, between 30, 31, and 40. And I think I could conceivably see them taking him in that pick, and I'm sure there's going to be other people who say, well, I'd feel safer at 45 and after or something like that. But he's definitely a second-round pick, and there's still plenty of things he can do after the season ends if he decides to go to the draft. You have the combine if he gets an invite, and he's going to have one-on-one workouts. He's going to have the 3-on-3s, 4-on-4s, 5-on-5s, whatever teams are organizing for prospects. So he's going to have plenty of opportunities to show what he can do as well in that regard.
Obviously, as a play-by-play man for the Bison, I want what's best for Grant. I want to see him excel at whatever he does. I know that the coaching staff has his support, and just a phenomenal young man, as all these Bison are. It's been great to get to know Grant. And, of course, as a Spurs fan, I'd like to see him donning the silver and white down there in San Antonio. But you go back and you look at the program with the Spurs and what they do, and they're so good at molding guys and developing and building up guys. It was almost like before you had the G League and then the D League, of course, that the Spurs were that NBA team that could mold guys and get them to that next level. I think about Manu Ginobili in the 99 draft where it was in round 2. He was pick 57. Do you kind of feel like out of all the teams out there that maybe the Spurs would be the best fit? And I know it's hard because you cover the Spurs, so put that bias aside a little bit and think about, do you feel like that would be the best fit for him as a program that develops players?
It would certainly be one of the better fits. I don't know if I would say right now it's the best, and a lot of that is going to come down to what other teams do in the draft as far as who they take in the first round, and kind of how their rosters look right now, if they make any cuts before the deadline for playoffs and things like that. But there's probably a few teams that could use a player like Grant Nelson who can potentially initiate some offense for you, and that part of his game, I think, is really attractive to the Spurs because they just traded away Jakob Poeltl, who is doing that for them a lot. And so if they can find another big man, Grant Nelson, I think he's listed 6'11", 235. If he can be a guy who kind of initiates offense when the point guard isn't doing it for the Spurs, that has tremendous value to them. And I think if he can show some improvement on the defensive end, the value gets even greater.
Ben, one of the things that people love to do, not only in the NBA draft, but obviously the NFL draft as well, they like to compare people, give them comps to guys that are currently in the league. So my question is that to you. Who is someone in the NBA that you would compare Grant Nelson to?
Oh, I am terrible at giving comps, to be honest. I like to evaluate and tell people what I see, but I think if off the cuff, if I have to give a comparison, a big man he might be a younger Jakob Poeltl right now who can shoot it better. He has to show a little more consistency from three, but he moves really well at his size. He can defend at the rim. He can protect the rim a bit. You can run a little bit of offense through him, but he's probably got a better post-up game, and he can handle the ball better than Jakob Poeltl. So there might be a better comparison out there, but just us talking about it kind of got me thinking. Well, there are pieces of his game that remind me of Jakob Poeltl.
Again, Ben Bornstein joining us here with Project Spurs on the Epic Companies Hotline. Final question from me, Ben, is we're down to the final game here for NDSU, and that'll be versus Western Illinois, and then Summit League tournament is underway. What do you really feel like a guy like Grant has to do here in this remaining regular season game and then for the tournament?
I think he's got to shoot from three fairly well. I think that would go a long way in kind of alleviating some concerns there. His percentages from there aren't great, but he's still efficient everywhere else on the floor. He's a decent mid-range shooter. He finishes incredibly well at the rim. I think I read somewhere he's in the 95th percentile in finishing at the rim, which is phenomenal, especially for a guy who handles the ball as much as he does. Just continue to do that as well. I think he's going to have to show a little more defense. If they're going to have him switching out on the perimeter against guards, he's got to show a little bit of quicker feet. And if you're North Dakota State and you really want to put on a showcase for Grant Nelson, ideally, you try and go out and you win the Summit League automatic qualifying bid, and you get your extra game in the NCAA tournament. I don't know how likely that is, but that would be pretty awesome for Grant Nelson. He gets a chance to showcase against potentially a Power 5 team. I know they played Arkansas earlier in the year, and he looked pretty solid against them, but they'd have an opportunity to play another team like that, and he can show people what he can do against, legitimate competition, which has been one of the knocks, is that he plays in, a lower league, in the Summit League, and so it's not the same as playing in a Power 5 conference, Pac-12, SEC, whatever it may be. So I think that would go a long way too.
Ben, appreciate your insight. I totally dropped the ball, by the way, because it's your first time on the Insiders, and so we have a special audio for you. That was the gong. I forgot to give you the gong, and I felt like if I didn't do that, it was going to jinx something as the season goes on. So I had to give you the gong. Again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your insight, and keep up the great work down there, and thank you for covering our guys here up at NDSU.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, there he is again. That was Ben Bornstein joining us on the Epic Companies Hotline. You can find him on Twitter at @the_Boomstein. That's BOOMSTEIN. A great insight there, and I appreciate, again, guys from that far south picking up on Grant Nelson, covering him, and keeping up to date with all the good things happening with NDSU. We'll switch gears. We'll talk a little baseball with MLB spring training games getting underway and much more. Mike Capps joins us on the Epic Companies Hotline when we return on the other side.
You're listening to the Insiders on your home for NDSU sports. Bison 1660.
I think what makes Proceed win is we're different than the other companies in many ways with our programming, our simplicity, our non-corporate attitudes, and our personal relationship building.
What Proceed is, we bring back the old-fashioned seed buying experience. We're true seedsmen. We care about everything from the sale to the planting to following up afterwards. That's what we're all about, is just trying to bring that experience back to a personal level.
Need seed, think Proceed.
proseed.net. Great seed at a reasonable price.
Are you an electrician? Are you looking for a change? JDP Electric is looking for commercial, industrial, and service electricians. JDP is looking for both journeyman and apprentice electricians. You could start your career today with a family-owned and operated business who's been serving our community for over 20 years. Full-time positions available with great pay and benefits. Call 701-232-1991 or email info@jdpelectric.net. Start your new tomorrow today. Come, be a part of the JDP difference.
In 1953, Bill Samuels created a simple bourbon, while Margie Samuels worked on her creative vision. A bottle hand-dipped in red wax, wrapped in a hand-cut label, filled with handcrafted bourbon that elevated flavor and remains unchanged as of today. Aromas of woody oak, caramel, and vanilla, with a taste that is sweet and balanced with caramel, vanilla, and fruity essences. Every barrel of Maker's Mark is aged to taste, not time. Maker's Mark, the star of your home bar. Please drink responsibly.
With the rising threat of cybersecurity attacks, you need to ensure your business is fully protected. Data loss, ransomware attacks, and other breaches can disrupt your business and damage your reputation. Consolidated Communications Cloud Secure Service safeguards your business from these attacks by securing your network, data, and applications. We proactively monitor your security to prevent intrusions before they compromise your IT systems while protecting your staff in the office or when working remotely. Visit consolidatedcommunications.com/cloudsecure to protect your business.
What do concussions, sports injuries, post-COVID long hauler, and chronic pain all have in common? Inflammation. At Healing with Hyperbarics, we are treating your inflammation the natural way with 100% oxygen, no referral needed, same-day appointments, and weekend availability. Now is the time to let us help you heal. Check us out on our website, healingwithhyperbarics.com, or on Facebook. Healing with Hyperbarics is your one-stop shop for total body wellness, conveniently located on 45th Street in Fargo.
Here's your Red River Valley weather update on Bison 1660.
It's been a cold Friday with increasing clouds throughout the day and a high near 2 below. Overnight, mostly cloudy, then gradually becoming mostly clear with a low around 11 below. Wind chill values 25 below. This weather update brought to you by Minn Kota Windows. Just when your kids thought it was time to head outside, a cold snap rolls in. Ditch the coat and snuggle up with peace of mind, knowing that Minn Kota's energy-efficient vinyl will block out the brutal cold and save you money. Midwest built, Midwest tough, guaranteed for life.
Quit hitting snooze for the same old thing every single day.
Oh no.
There's more to life. What about a career in the hottest and most exciting industry in the world? A career at Radio FM Media selling audio, digital, and event marketing is for people that are self-driven, personality plus, multitasker, persistent, have a creative streak, and love the idea of having a career instead of a job. This is a six-figure sales job for highly motivated salespeople. Does this sound like you? Send your resume to Jessica at RadioFMmedia.com.
2 hours of sports talk every weekday, 11 to 1.
Well. Oh my gracious!
Now, let's get back to the Insiders.
Welcome back at it. Moving right along here on the Insiders. Thanks for joining us on a Friday. Rob Hipp, Kyle Emanuel, Micah Bendy in studio from the Theraldson Ethanol broadcast studio. Theraldson Ethanol, proud to partner with Summit Carbon Solutions, helping reduce the carbon footprint by capturing, transporting, and permanently storing CO2 emissions, cutting carbon intensity in half. As we move along here and switch gears, went from basketball, we'll talk a little baseball with spring games getting underway in the majors today, and now joined on the Epic Companies hotline by a good friend and mentor of mine and one of the best storytellers that I know as well, Mike Capps. Mike, thanks for joining us. How you doing today, my friend?
Well, I'm getting ready for my 23rd season as the voice of the Round Rock Express, the Texas Rangers AAA affiliate, and we're all jacked up about that, especially because we have at AAA and at the major league level in the Rangers organization, we are back to having managers who play in the big leagues and are big league focused and are focused on players and the game first while they use all their numbers just like they always have. I'm really excited to have veteran baseball men running both AAA and big leagues.
Mike, have you had a chance to get up to Fargo?
Yes, I broadcast against the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks in 1998 when I was with the Sioux Falls Canaries.
Okay.
In the old north. So, and I've gone farther north than that, Winnipeg as well. And don't forget Thunder Bay, Ontario was in the league that year. So, yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah.
good. Hey, you
we know. We know 40-degree nights in summer. Yeah, we've been there.
What is it right now there in Austin? I know you're in Central Texas. What's the temp right now, Mike?
It was 91 yesterday. It's 53 today. So it's standard. You can't figure out what to wear out of the house to work. So you bring 3 different shirts, 2 different jackets, and hope it doesn't snow one.
I forgot to warn Micah, our producer, that called you there just about you have one of the best senses of humor, Mike. And like I said, I always enjoy being around you. I love your stories. And whenever Mike...
I told him I wasn't going on the air. But he goes, what?
Yeah, he got a little nervous. He goes, I thought he was for real. I said, that's just Mike. That's how he jokes around. So, well, Mike, it's good to have you on. Appreciate you and your friendship for so many years. And thanks for joining us, kind of on a quick whim here this morning. Wanted to talk baseball, and spring season getting underway today. The major league teams out there. What are you looking forward to most about this season, and just kind of across the entire landscape?
Just being back in the day to day, and we play 150 games, dovetailing with a major league season. It's the second year we've done that. AAA baseball should have always been 150 to 154. We'd end the season. Up until 2 years ago, we'd end the season on Labor Day, and the big league still had a month to go. Guys would go home and then get called back after 2 or 3 weeks, and they hadn't played in 2 or 3 weeks. So in an effort to make things a little more even and keep players moving, they've extended our season one step from the big leagues to 150 games, and it works out very, very nicely in terms of keeping guys ready to go and play in the big league in the last month of the season.
Mike, we got to ask you about the rule changes that are happening in the MLB. I think you've seen some of them at the minor league level. Now they're trying to get them up in the big boy level at the Major League Baseball. You got the shift rule, the new pitch clock. Just your initial thoughts on the Major League adopting these new rules.
I am a huge proponent of the pitch clock. We saw our time of game last year go down to 2 hours and 40 minutes. The year before, the average game was 3 hours and 7 minutes. We had, the year before last, in 2021, we had 4 9-inning games over 4 hours. That's way too long. See, this has come about over a long period of time. The need for a pitch clock, and it's also on the umpires, part of it. And we'll get around. I'm sure you're going to want to ask me about the automated umps, which I've also been exposed to. Pitch clock is great because it reminds the pitcher that you need to keep moving. You should have been taught to keep the game moving in the first place, but baseball has evolved. We got to the point where 2 things were working against time of game. Pitchers walking off the mound incessantly, rubbing up a baseball, and you got hitters stepping out. And then there's the umpire problem. Umpires were having trouble at the AAA level for years, staying with a static strike zone. Hitters and pitchers depend on knowing what a static strike zone is. If it's wobbling all over the place, in other words, if pitcher's hitting the inside edge constantly, he's proving he can hit that inside edge. That should be a strike. I mean, even if it's just on the black. But the strike zone must remain static. Otherwise, how are you to know what's a ball, what's a strike? And when this kind of thing happens, when the strike zone begins to wobble, both benches start screaming at the umpire, and all that does is slow it down. Pitch clock has served to keep guys in tow, keep the game moving. I mean, it was proven last year. We saw it. No doubt about it. We had some games in the 2 teens, which I hadn't seen since our first year in AAA, and that was back in 2005. So I'm a big proponent of the pitch clock, yes.
What do you believe is going to be more impactful with the MLB banning the shift? Do you think it's going to impact fans watching the games, that fans are going to stay more tuned in? Or do you think it's more important for the players that the averages and hits are going to be going up?
Well, I don't know that we can necessarily forecast just because the shift, the averages have been going up, because a lot of guys figured out the last 2 years how to beat the shift. And, it's if you stop and think about it, had you been taught to bunt, the shift would have gone away on its own. But nobody wanted to do. Everybody is worried about the launch angle and how far they can hit it, and they get out of a traditional hitter's role, and that's being able, if you see an infield shifted, you work against the shift. You drop a bunt down. We saw over the last 2 years 2 doubles on bunts dropped down the third base side. I mean, that's the way you beat the shift. And for Major League Baseball to come back and say, you can't shift anymore. Well, okay, and that's fine, but the bottom line to that is, if you're hitting correctly, you're going to beat the shift and come up with more base hits. So back to the point of higher averages, I got to see that all proven out, because it's the way baseball's going to teaching its hitters now. Even the little guys exit velocity and try to get an uppercut swing to try to hit everything out to please the fans. I'm telling you, you get a guy with speed, you get a guy who put the ball in play. That's exciting baseball. And then you get the big guys who'll drive it out. I mean, so not to be disputatious with you, Mike, but I want to see all this proven out. I'm glad that we're going back to 2 infielders on either side of the infield. I mean, that's the way I grew up playing the game all the way through college, and that's the way I like to see it played, because it plays out better. I mean, whoever it was that invented baseball way back when, 90 feet bases, 60 feet 6 inches, it results you get a ground ball to the shortstop, and nowadays, as fast as most guys are, that's a bang-bang play at first. And it's exciting if you stop and think about it. But everybody's now attuned to wanting to see the ball hit 500 feet, and that's a freak of nature anyway. But we'll see how it all plays out. I'm just anxious to get this thing going, and let's just see. And I could be wrong. Maybe the batting averages do go up. I'm going to be surprised, because a lot of guys up their batting averages when they finally learn, if they were a hitter and left-handed, and the infield is played to pull all the way around to the right with the shortstop on the second base side of the bag. That should have been a way for left-handed batters to just go crazy and up their batting average, but it didn't happen. So to me, Mike, this whole thing has been out of whack for a few years, and I'm glad to see at least the infield defense is going to be playing like this.
Looking forward to getting the season going here before too long. Again, Mike Capps, veteran broadcaster, minor league AAA affiliate there of the Texas Rangers, the Round Rock Express outside of Central Texas, giving us valuable insight on the rule changes and what he thinks of things that are to come. I wanted to give you an opportunity, Mike, to also talk about your book that you came out with. Grinders is the title of it, Grinders, Baseball's Intrepid Infantry. And I know my good friend Darla Jean purchased your book. She was chiming in here on our Facebook feed as well, saying glad to have a voice to put with the name, loving his book, The Grinders. She loves the stories. Tell us a little bit more about that book and just what all it includes. It's been a great read.
Well, I appreciate that. And Darla Jean, if you'll send it to me, Rob's got my address. I'll autograph it, send it right back. It won't cost you a dime. We'll take care of you that way. And I do appreciate you buying it. And, Rob, I do appreciate you tipping her off on it. This has been a labor of love that has gone on for 60 years. My grandfather introduced me to minor league Dallas-Fort Worth Rangers when I was 7 or 8 years old at an old Burnett Field, which sat across the river from downtown Dallas. And we're sitting there one night watching the Minneapolis Millers, the Red Sox affiliate, against the Dallas-Fort Worth Rangers, the Kansas City A's affiliate. It tells you how long that's been. And my grandfather was pointing to the left fielder. He said, watch this guy. He's going to turn out to be something. Well, my grandfather had been a Pittsburgh Pirates prospect until he got hurt in World War I. And, of course, that guy turned out to be Carl Yastrzemski. But he had check marks on, beside the names of 6 players from Minneapolis and 4 or 5 from Dallas-Fort Worth. And I said, why are there check marks there? He said, these are the guys that are going to be going back and forth between the minor leagues and their major league teams. He said they are the engine that drives baseball's bus. And to me, that says grinder, and that's why it's named Grinder. Intrepid Infantry, these are people who have bounced back and forth. They've overcome being black and playing in the Jim Crow South and having shotguns put to their throats. They've overcome war injuries. For instance, Hank Bauer, the former manager of the Baltimore Orioles, who led them to their first World Series, played 12 years with the New York Yankees in their outfield alongside Mickey Mantle and whoever else was in left. Bauer was the right fielder. He played with shrapnel in his calves and his back. There's stories of great Negro League players who bounced along and finally got the chance after Jackie Robinson. One of those families is the Sam Hairston family. You may remember Jerry Hairston Jr. and Scott Hairston from the big leagues recently. Well, their dad was a big leaguer, three generations, and Scott and Jerry Jr. have two sons each who are going to end up being the fourth generation of baseball's fourth generation. I'll get my F's out correctly. And they're in this book, and we're thrilled to death they are. And there's a book with their name on it somewhere that somebody needs to write. I hope it's me. But the bottom line to those guys is Sam told his son that he was lucky to be playing baseball, and that we're no different than anybody else who lives on our block, and we need to remember that and be good citizens as well. Sam Hairston is in my all-time Hall of Fame, just because of that and the fact he coached in the big leagues for 17, 18 years after he stopped playing. It's just a wonderful family, wonderful stories. Guys who were told they could not play. The guy played for the Texas Rangers. You can read it in the book. Nobody liked him. He played a little bit in junior college, went 1 for 3. His summer league coach was a part-time scout for the White Sox, signed him, and 22 years later, he retired after a 22-year major league career. So this is the kind of story we're telling, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm humbled that so many people are buying it, and I really appreciate folks in Fargo, North Dakota are interested, and if we need to, we can send more books to the Fargo bookstores.
All right, well, that sounds good. Mike, appreciate you. There's a lot more history. Again, you can read all about these stories in his book, Grinders, Baseball's Intrepid Infantry, and you can find that book on Amazon. Mike, got to let you go. We'll have you on again sometime soon because there's more to your story as well. It's not just baseball. I know that you work for ABC News in St. Louis as a reporter, working at CNN, I know, covering the Gulf War, and then also there with the Branch Davidians and the Waco siege back in the mid-'90s, which garnered you that Emmy nomination and a Cable Ace Award. There's so much that you do, Mike, so much history, and we just appreciate you and all that you do. Thanks so much again for chiming in with us today.
Yes, sir, and we're here to serve. Give me a call anytime.
All right, there he is again, Mike Capps, veteran broadcaster. Great to hear his stories, and again, his book, Grinders. Does not have a Twitter. He does have a Twitter account, but it hasn't been posted on since 2015, so I'm not going to give it out there, but you can find out more about Mike again in that book, The Grinders. It's a good read, and Darla Jean, I know, is enjoying it as well. This hour of Rick Electric, this hour has been brought to you by Rick Electric. When you need electrical work, you need Rick Electric. For over 56 years, Rick Electric has been providing excellent electrical service for homes and businesses. You can visit them online at rickelectric.com. Greg Steeman will join us as we talk Summit League basketball when we return here on The Insiders.
This is The Insiders on your home for NDSU sports. Bison 1660.
We're Cal and Casey Ryan from Ryan Brothers, your plumbing, heating, and air conditioning experts.
As a third-generation company, we learned to treat customers like family.
We don't charge crazy things like dispatch fees or truck charges. You only pay us for our time and materials. That's it.
Just like if we were fixing the sink for Aunt's soup.
So the next time your hot water runs cold or the furnace is on the fritz, give us a call.
Ryan Brothers, plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, where you always get the family rate.
Welcome to the family.
Don't let your profits get stuck in your truck this spring. Dirt, rock, let it slide with Super Slide. Super Slide is a plastic, non-stick, self-lubricating, and seamless liner that eliminates haulback in your dump box or dump trailer. Super Slide is available in various grades, widths, and thicknesses, and Horn Plastics can have you in and out in no time. Get your new liner now to ensure you maximize productivity and profitability in 2023. Super Slide from Horn Plastics, created and preferred for every job. Visit hornplastics.com to schedule your installation. inflation.
There's so many things on the mind of ag operators. This is Scott Zolandic with Cornerstone Bank. Right-sizing your farm operations, interest rates, and inflation are hot-button issues, and for good reason. These concerns require a specialized approach. At Cornerstone Bank, we're here to help businesses, ag operations, and individuals when they're making important decisions about their money. We're a locally owned and managed community bank, and we've been specializing in ag banking for generations. Come see the experts at Cornerstone Bank.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Twin Peaks has you covered for Lent. Try the fish and chips bundled with a 22-ounce draft for a steal on Fridays, or reel in one of our seafood options: blackened fish tacos, shrimp Caesar, and char-grilled salmon. No one does happy hour like Twin Peaks. We have everything from tequila cocktails, an extensive bourbon category, to top-shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu, second to none. And don't forget about our 29-degree man-sized drafts. Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, scenic views.
Hi, Chad here from Minnesota Warehouse Furniture and Mattress, located in the heart of Lakes Country. We're the land of over 10,000 sleeps. We have helped our customers and their families rest easy for over 40 years, which is why year after year we've been voted the Lakes Country's best place to buy a mattress. At Minnesota Warehouse Furniture and Mattress, you get the best value on name brand mattresses and the best service. We have a large assortment of mattresses, including memory foam and hybrids. It's worth the drive to Minnesota Warehouse Furniture and Mattress, located in Earhart, Minnesota. No frills, just big savings so you can rest easy.
Missed portions of today's show? Go to Bison1660.com to listen to the podcast, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Bison1660.
Hoping for that glorious intro. Kind of feels like a glorious Friday. Maybe we'll have that one to close out here before too long. Micah Bendy running the dials for us, doing a great job. Welcome back here on the Insiders, Bison 1660 on the Bison app, wherever you may be, and also streaming online 24/7, Bison1660.com. By the way, if you haven't been to the website in a while, check it out. We're keeping that updated with a lot of content with NDSU and other news from around the sports world. You can also see latest schedules for Bison men's and women's basketball, press releases, press conferences, and so much more. So if you haven't been in a while, go. The website is constantly updated. And also, if you haven't subscribe to our YouTube channel, make sure to do that. Go to youtube.com/@Bison1660 and hit that subscribe button where you can replay and catch up with this show that we show behind the scenes on the Horse Cam and many other things as well. So make sure you join our YouTube channel, subscribe to that, and we'll keep you updated. Let's head back over to the Epic Companies hotline. The phone lines remaining hot today here on a Friday as we'll now be joined by our good friend, Mr. Greg Steeman of Midco Sports on the Epic Companies hotline. Greg, as always, thanks for chiming in. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity to come on, and hopefully everybody's looking forward to some warmer weather in the next few days.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking to a friend of mine, Mike Capps, down in Texas. He said it was 91 the other day. So I'm not looking forward to the 90s, but, a good 68 is a pretty nice temperature. And here we are, final regular season game of the year here in college basketball all across the landscape, and Summit League is right on the horizon, the tournament coming up. Greg, just kind of wanted to get your takeaways starting off overall with just how things have been across the Summit. I know we've talked about it before, but now with that one game remaining, what have just been your thoughts this year in the Summit League?
A ton of unpredictability, and hopefully people getting healthy at the right time, but first of all, credit to ORU, and I think we addressed this last time we visited. They've had a heck of a run, and I think it's kind of it's the perfect ending to the conference season to have them at South Dakota State in Brookings, trying to duplicate what South Dakota State did a year ago, at least in the regular season. I have a feeling that's going to be a fantastic crowd, and there's a ton on the line with a lot of other games. Obviously, Western Illinois coming into Fargo. These two teams battling from a seeding standpoint. NDSU got a much-needed win over St. Thomas. But I think a lot of unpredictability, and also I think we've seen maybe some teams overperform what they were picked preseason. I think St. Thomas being one of those. They even though NDSU got them at their place, I think St. Thomas has shown that they're going to be formidable. And the other team is Western Illinois. I think they've got a legitimate Player of the Year candidate in Trenton Masner coming into Fargo tomorrow afternoon. So unpredictable, but at the same time, always exciting this time of year. And who's going to get hot, who puts together, 3 or 4 great days in Sioux Falls. It's going to be a lot of fun to see who comes in there with momentum.
Yeah, Greg, so let's look ahead to the Summit League tournament. Obviously, we still got this one game to go that will determine some things, but obviously Oral Roberts there at the top, as you mentioned, undefeated in conference play. Is there a team, maybe outside of South Dakota State just because they're right there too, but is there a team that you would say matches up with them well that could maybe pull off the upset in the tournament?
It's so funny you asked that because it's Kyle, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. You know who probably played them the toughest in both games this year? Omaha. I think it was like a 3-point and a 4-point. I mean, it's crazy. They have, they're sitting at the bottom of the league, but they have played ORU the toughest, and that's why we have talked about it on our podcast at times. It's such a matchup-driven year. Who matches up with who and who creates a ton of mismatch problems for the opposition. For some reason, Omaha has found a way to play very well whenever they played ORU. Now, I'm not saying they're the ones that probably have the best chance, but I do think St. Thomas is scary. I do think NDSU. I mean, for years, people around here have understood that that last weekend in February, the first weekend in March, that's when North Dakota State's going to be playing their best basketball. I think they're trending that way again. Between NDSU and SDSU, the fact that I think 10 of the last 11 years they've been the representative outside of ORU's Sweet 16 run, they've earned that respect to be a team that's very much feared to play whenever the Summit League tournament comes to Sioux Falls. And another team then, and I also think about it with Trenton Masner. Masner's a guy that can go for 40 on any given night, and he scores from all three levels. And so I think he makes Western Illinois very dangerous. Western Illinois does not have a lot of depth, but they create some problems for people with their ability to rebound, their ability to take care of the ball, and they can also shoot it very well. So I didn't get very specific for you, Kyle, but I think there's a number of dangerous teams down in Sioux Falls.
You've mentioned that it's been a matchup-driven season. Which team matches up the best against NDSU? Because we've seen that teams maybe can match up on the bigs with Grant Nelson and Andrew Morgan, but then you have teams like Western Illinois with Trenton Masner, Alec Rosner, and then also obviously Max Asmus and Isaac McBride at ORU. Do you think teams have more success versus NDSU with better guard play or better post play?
Well, that's really a fair question, and I think ORU is the most difficult matchup for NDSU because they can throw some length at North Dakota State, some quality length, and they have really good perimeter depth and experience. There's a reason they're undefeated in the league. There's a reason they're 25-4, I think, right now. They are as complete a team as this league has seen in a long time, and that's given a lot of credit to SDSU's group last year that went undefeated over the course of the regular season and the postseason against Summit League opponents. But that's the thing. ORU is the most difficult matchup for NDSU just because of their depth and experience all across their roster. And but at the same time, NDSU just gives people a ton of problems when you throw both Morgan and Grant Nelson out there, and Nelson's versatility is crazy, and the development of their young perimeters, Wheeler Thomas and Miller and oh god darn it, I'm trying to think.
Jakari White.
Thank you very much. Those three guys have played very well, and you also have Waddles that's always going to be a perimeter threat too. So that was going to be the plan all along for David Richmond, is how effective would he be at getting this young perimeter group up to speed. It looks like they're getting there right when they need to. And to also be honest with you, Bowden Schunberg's offensive development has been huge for North Dakota State. I think we were all waiting for him to kind of get to that point. But to his credit, he's gotten there just through grit and determination, and he's become an extremely complete player in this league, and he's going to be in some all-league discussions as well for North Dakota State. So I go back to your initial question. ORU, I think, presents the most problems for pretty much any other team in the league.
Greg Steeman again joining us here from Midcoast Sports on the Epic Companies Hotline, talking Summit League and that Summit League tournament looming here. Of course, not this weekend, but the weekend following. With NDSU, where they said you beat Western, you pretty much lock in that number 3. There's no pretty much, you do. You lock in that number 3 seed. How important is that? Because a 3 will play the number 6. As it stands right now, if it ended, it would be Kansas City. If you go 4, it's a little bit tighter in a 4-5 matchup. So just how important is that number 3 seed for North Dakota State?
Well, I think it's important, for a couple of reasons. First of all, Dave Richmond say, I don't care what seed we are, we got to play everybody. We'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere, and I get that. From the outside looking in, it is very important. First of all, it puts you opposite of Oral Roberts. If you're able to get to the semifinals, you can maybe win a game, and then you face ORU in the ultimate environment. But, what's interesting, I feel bad for Kansas City. I think Shamari Allen is out right now, and I don't know if he's going to be able to come back. Raquandis Mitchell and Shamari Allen gave Kansas City, they came into Fargo and beat up NDSU. They've got a ton of young length, and they had 2 really, really good, experienced, big, strong perimeters that could put a team on their back at any given time. They're still scary because they play with great edge, great effort, great toughness. In some cases, they're too young to know better, and I think Marvin Menzies done a great job. So Kansas City scares me, not as much as if both Allen and Mitchell were healthy, but they still are a scary team because of what they can do to you on the glass and the problems they can cause you defensively. So that's an issue. And then I don't know, the 4-5, that's all yet to shake out as well. But I think if you talk to Dave, he's going to say, we just want to win the doggone game Saturday so we can go into the conference tournament and be on a roll, be on a little bit of a winning streak, and be playing our best basketball this season. And then it's like, we don't care who we face. But I think if they can get this win, I think 3 seed is big, especially the way, the little stretch they experienced in the middle of the season. They're moving in the right direction. I think they definitely need to get that win tomorrow so they can kind of maintain that confidence.
Every time we have Greg Steeman on, I need one Steeman hot take. Let's say NDSU picks up the win tomorrow and gets the 3 seed. Of the top 3 seeds, Oral Roberts, SDSU, and possibly NDSU, which team do you see that could get upset first?
Ooh, I like that. Good God, that's a good question. I got to give you credit for that question. You know what? I will go with the team that has shown the propensity to, even though I have great respect for them. It's happened a couple times in the last 5 or 6 years that South Dakota State, when they were the 1 seed, got beat by the 8. So if there's a team, and it could be because they figure, well, everybody's going to be showing up for us, we're going to have the big crowd, whatever it might be, but they have shown, I guess, historically, to be the one that is the most susceptible to the upset in the first round. So I'm just going to go with that based on historical perspective. It's not a knock on South Dakota State. I picked them to win the league early, in the preseason. I think that highly of them. Easley's back and healthy, and that's going to help their depth. But I'm just going to say that based on maybe sometimes they go into that first-round game assuming that, hey, the crowd will get us through this one, and I think it caught up to them a couple times. I think both of those losses were to Western Illinois when they were the 8 seed. So that's who I'll go with, and that's for no other reason than they've done it before.
All right, well, there it is, the Steeman hot take. And by the way, I know you said, not putting those guys down. Of course, you're a professional. You do such a great job, Greg. But when you said that, all the radios here in Fargo, the cars, I just heard a multitude of horns honking. Everybody was in agreement with you. So that was good news for the folks here in Fargo. Greg, as always, appreciate your insight. Thanks for hopping on with us today. And looking forward to a great tournament. But we still got one more game remaining, and then we'll be down in Sioux Falls. So thank you so much, Greg.
Hey, thank you. Everybody should get out there tomorrow. It's going to be a heck of a game. Two very good teams going after it. You guys all have a great weekend, okay?
You got it. Thank you again. That was Greg Steeman. You can follow him on Twitter at Greg Steeman. That's GregSteemen. We'll step aside. We'll take a break. We'll wrap it up here on The Insiders when we come back.
You've got The Insiders on your Bison Nation station, Bison 1660.
Celebrate your commitment. Celebrate falling in love over and over again. Wimmer's Diamonds can help you find the perfect ring that says, I love you even more today. A beautiful pendant that says, you're simply the best. An exquisite bracelet that says, I'm so happy you're in my life. At Wimmer's Diamonds, we believe in showing your love with wonderful, beautiful reminders. Wimmer's, located at 4582 32nd Avenue South in Fargo.
Founded on family values, Dakota Underground is known for providing quality projects at superior timelines. Their 40-year reputation has been built by motivated people who work hard and always do the right thing. They're currently hiring heavy equipment operators, pipe layers, concrete finishers, and truck drivers to join their talented team. Learn on the job, work your way up, and earn a good living for you and your family. Easy apply online at dakotaunderground.net. That's dakotaunderground.net.
Love is in the air.
It's a brand new day.
Birds are singing duets together.
And squirrels are chasing each other across the treetops.
Everyone has a twinkle in their eye.
Boom, chicka-boom.
Don't let junk get in the way.
We make junk disappear.
All you have to do is point.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
And you'll be back to your old self again.
We've got magic in our fingertips.
And that's why everyone starts dancing.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Or visit 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
Doesn't it seem like there's a mattress store on every corner? I mean, there are more mattress stores than coffee shops. This makes it hard to shop. Beds by Design Mattress Factory has all your options at one location. We eliminate the middleman, which means you pay half the price. So instead of shopping for hours with cheesy salesmen and spending too much, BBD Mattress Factory can find the best mattress for you at the best price. We have mattresses starting at $99, and you can trade them in for life. Stop in. Beds by Design Mattress Factory.
Papa Murphy's $9.99 extra large New York style pizza is a big deal. So we're going big to tell everyone about it. How big? We're talking action movie big. Carving $9.99 XLNY into a mountainside big. And shouting it from the literal mountaintops big. Because the XLNY is everything you can expect from a classic New York style pizza, hot and fresh out of your oven for just $9.99. Order the XLNY pizza at papamurphys.com.
About a month ago, we had some unexpected plumbing issues. We called Valley Service Mechanical in a panic and were pleasantly surprised with the professional that came to our rescue. He took the time to explain the issues to us, and you could really tell he enjoyed what he was doing and the pride he had representing Valley Service Mechanical.
When your heating and cooling needs help and your plumbing is on the fritz, call Valley Service Mechanical, 701-293-5701. Online at valleyservice.net.
If you need any professional advice, they may not be your guys.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
But if you need information on NDSU, then they got you covered. It's The Insiders on Bison 1660.
Welcome back at it as we close it up here on The Inside. I'm having a little bit of chuckle, if you can't tell in the back of my voice, because Micah Bendy likes to delay my microphone. He actually doesn't do it on purpose. It's me. Sometimes I get started too late.
I did that one on purpose.
But Micah knows what sounds best because he is the producer. As I've always said, let's be honest, he's the guy that runs the show. He's in charge of the show. And sometimes I'll come back a little bit too early talking. He's like, nope, not going to sound good. I'm going to hold you off. And then that microphone turns red, and then I'm allowed to talk. So, Micah, thank you.
You know, it's a good thing. We're excited to get back on the air and talk to the folks around Fargo area about Bison sports, athletics.
That reminds me of an episode of The Office when I think Pam does it to Michael. She'll before she transfers him over to the boss, she'll just leave the phone line on her real quick so he can say something stupid to her, and then she'll transfer him to the correct person. Something like that. Is that what we got rocking?
Sorry. I'm censoring Rob because Rob is going to say something dumb.
Yeah, he's going to start singing, or he's going to be doing something.
I don't know. I don't think you sounded dumb all day today, and I usually do that during this show, during this 2-hour period.
I'm glad to know I don't sound dumb, Micah. Thank you, Micah. I'm going to tell you what. I work with the best in the business. When you got guys like Micah Benny and then Kyle Emanuel filling in, I mean, it truly is, and I'm saying this sincerely, guys, truly a privilege to work alongside of you and a lot of great folks here in the Fargo area that have been with us this week, chiming in on the show. It's been a fun week. Doing a little Bison history with Kenny Sampson. Actually had a lot of folks messaging me later yesterday evening saying it was so at the basketball game. Had a couple of people come up saying, man, you guys should do that more often. It was great to have a fan on. And so it was exciting to have Kenny on and talk to him. And he messaged me after as well and said, I loved it, want to be back on. And then just, having some newcomers on today, talking a little bit about Grant Nelson and what folks down in the Lone Star State think, and Mike Capps and his stories. And I would love just to sit down and chat with Mike more, not even about sports, just about him covering the Gulf War and the Waco siege, because he was there, I think, 14 hours straight on CNN covering that back in the early 90s. So been a fun week. Appreciate everybody chiming in, joining in with us. Still sports to go, though. I mean, baseball's rocking and rolling. Didn't have a chance to talk to Tyler Oaks today, but NDSU baseball is down there in San Diego. I'm sure that they're not enjoying that weather. You know, it's always just horrible in San Diego. Actually, it's not. It's usually in the 70s year-round and beautiful. I've been to San Diego before, and it's actually a really nice city.
Yeah, I lived there for 2 years. Pretty
You
nice.
know all about it.
Not bad. It's funny because it's actually some of the worst weather is like when everyone else says their best weather, like May and June. Weirdly, in San Diego, no, it's not bad, but it's like not as nice. Rob, before I go, since I won't be back next week, I wanted to talk about. We're talking about quarterbacks, so I got to ask you because like the one that we haven't really mentioned yet is Dak Prescott. Because people are already talking. Do they extend him? So we got like a minute left. I need to get you as a Cowboys fan. Do they extend him? Is he the franchise quarterback? Is this the one? Is this the guy that they need to get back to the Super Bowl that they haven't been to in like 30 years? Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
No, it's a tough one because, I mean, who else would be lining up behind him? I mean, you've got guys there as a back. But, look, I don't think Dak is like the guy. I think a Tony Pollard would be more of a franchise-type player for the Cowboys at this point at the running back position. But I think, do you keep Dak? Yeah, you got to keep him. He's had some success. I think at the end of the day with the Cowboys, it's the management. It's the upper management. It's guys like Jerry Jones. It's time to back away and let his son run the team and quit micromanaging everything. So for me, that's kind of where I'm at. It's leave Dak alone, but get a guy like Pollard and get him locked in for a long time. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think Dak is a good player, but I don't think he can be paid like a top quarterback, right? Like he's good, but I don't know if he can be that guy at the top. You got to leave some money for some of the other people to have a good team around him.
That's where it's at. And
I agree with you, Rob. Someone should fire Jerry Jones, the owner. Someone needs to fire him.
And it's not going to happen. So that is your hot take to end the show on a Friday. Hey, get out to the Shill Center, gobison.com, order your tickets as NDSU men's basketball. A big game coming up on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Thanks for being with us all week, Bison Nation. Download that app. And as always, horns up and go Bison.
Acme Tools continues to grow. Their new Kubota dealership building is under construction in South Fargo, and as Acme grows, so does their team. This family-owned business of over 75 years is now hiring